Hi guys, I was sent a message and I wanted to do a video response, and I was asked to do the response in a video and make a video about what it's like to move in with your boyfriend, or if you've never moved in with a partner before, what it can be like and the things to take into account. So I really thought this was an interesting video to do, because obviously I've been with my boyfriend, well now he's my husband, but we've been together for a long time, and we did move in obviously first before getting married and everything like that. And you might not even be thinking about getting married at all, but just the prospect of moving in together. So I wanted to do a video about that because there's so many things you have to take into account before you go ahead and do something like this. The first thing I'd say before we get into anything is don't move in because it's financially easier. That is the worst thing you could possibly do, because what will happen is when you eventually do get back up on your feet financially, you'll find that you're financially dependent on one another, so you can't get to the next stage, and it's just not a good idea because you're not doing it for the right reasons. So if you are struggling, turn to family, turn to friends, turn to things like that for yourself to get to that next level, but don't turn to a relationship that seems to be going very well and then you think, okay, let's just move in because I really need to move into somewhere right now, because you're then expecting the relationship to suddenly jump into this next stage, which is never a good idea for you or for the other person, and generally it doesn't work out. But going forward, if you are thinking about moving in together, obviously that's really, really great. What you need to think about is, if you're somebody who sees your partner, which is a quite common if you're not living with each other and maybe see each other twice a week, you've got work commitments, college, things like that, you see your friends, family, so you're going from seeing your partner from 2 times a week, or maybe 3, let's just say 3, to then moving in together where you're seeing each other every single day. So that in itself is a big change, and obviously at the beginning it's going to be amazing, you're going to love spending so much time together, you're going to absolutely feel like you're in a honeymoon phase, and you will be in a honeymoon phase. But what you need to realise is that obviously most leases are a year, so you think about you're signing yourself on for a year's lease, think about that with your partner. You're there, obviously you can, if the relationship doesn't work out, you obviously are going to break up and things like that, but if you're signing yourself in for a year lease, make sure that you love that person, that it's not just, as I said, a financial reason or for financial reasons, and that you genuinely can see yourself with this person. Now, things to expect. If you were like me, very, very clean, I'm not saying that everybody isn't clean, but I like things in a certain way, and my partner is kind of in the middle of that. He's not as kind of tidying up and, I wouldn't say it's OCD, I'm OCD like, but I like to have things in a certain way and I like things to be organised. That's the next thing I want to talk about, because you're coming in together, obviously, having seen each other 2-3 times a week, weekends away, that kind of thing, and that's nice and it's lovely and it's romantic, and then you're moving in together and suddenly you have to kind of, you're experiencing, obviously, things not being put away, dishes not being put in the dishwasher after dinner, which you would automatically do, or I would automatically do anyway, and you suddenly find that the two of you are a little bit different, and this isn't something to kind of have a huge argument over, although you might, that could be your first kind of big thing. So it's a good thing to take into account, each other's habits and things like that, which you may not even experience until you move in together. So that kind of thing to find out first. I know isn't always a bit, you can't always just come out and say what you're thinking or what you want to know about that other person. But generally, if you're in that other person's house, whether they live with their parents or they live with roommates, you kind of get to know their habits and their how they live and things like that. So just make sure that you're comfortable with how they live, because when you come together, if you're a person that's quite clean and they're not a person that's quite clean, that's going to annoy you. Or even just, you can come together, and what I would suggest is just say, we're moving in together now. This is how I did it back in my apartment, this is how you do it now. We need to come together and kind of, come to an arrangement where I do, cooking on a Monday, you do cleaning, I do cleaning on a Tuesday, you do cooking, that kind of thing. So kind of have it like where both of you are equal, not one person doing everything as well, because that can cause a lot of arguments as well. One person doing all of the cleaning, one person doing all of the cooking, that kind of thing. So make sure that you set out kind of like a little plan. It doesn't have to be like written out or anything like that, but just how I had when I moved in. We kind of had just a discussion. It wasn't anything that had to be like, bullet pointed or anything like that. But, it helps to kind of have something that, when you come in from work or college, that this is my kind of thing that I do today, and then tomorrow it'll be, you know, his turn and that kind of thing, because it generally kind of, and as you live together, those kind of things generally gel into place anyway. The other thing I would talk about as well is, so you've moved in, you've kind of gotten your what he does and what you do, or what you both do to kind of make each other's lives better in terms of, you know, maintaining the house, cleaning, cooking, that kind of thing. The other thing is not to kind of you tend to get into a bubble kind of we live together now, we're in our honeymoon phase, this is amazing, and just don't neglect the friends that you've had before. And it's not that you wouldn't neglect your friends, but don't kind of not see them where you would have seen them on the days that you wouldn't have seen your partner before you moved in. So it's just to make sure that your friends still feel, you know, not that they don't feel included in your life, but you don't want to be so into everything that you kind of, you know, neglect, not neglect, but, you know, not just that you don't even think about seeing your, not that you wouldn't think, but not seeing about your friends and your family, which is really normal at the start because you're in this kind of happy phase. But it's important to keep up the relationships that you had before as well, because then that gives you know, because you are now living with your partner, it gives you that extra part of your life, you know, because they can't, obviously a boyfriend is not meant to fulfill, or a partner, husband or wife is not meant to fulfill everything. You know, you do have friends to fulfill that side of your life, you do have family, you know, and keep all of those relationships going and ongoing, because it's a really healthy part of your life as well. The other thing I would mention is, at the start, always keep, I would suggest, obviously, don't open a joint checking account at the beginning, even when you move in for the first year, because obviously do split everything and make sure that you're not paying everything, he's not paying everything, so that you both don't feel like one is paying more than the other. But I would suggest for that first year, keep everything, you know, do obviously pay what you pay, he pays what he pays, but keep everything, you know, in terms of counts and things like that. I would just advise for the first year separate, and then going forward see how everything is going, and then from then on I would advise maybe, you know, keep it separate, have your own account, but, you know, you can still pay into bills and pay into things like that as well. So far we've talked about kind of how to live within the house, how to do, you know, how to separate cleaning, things like that, how to not kind of neglect friends. And it's not really neglecting, all I meant was, it is such an exciting time when you move in together that sometimes it can be very easy to just not see the friends you would have seen on the days where you weren't living with your partner, because obviously it was easier. You were living on your own, or you were living with somebody else. You may have even been living with a girlfriend, and obviously that in itself was a very close relationship. If you're living, that's what was in my case. I was living with a girlfriend before I moved in with my partner, so obviously we saw each other on a daily basis, every single day, and we were very close. So it is important to kind of keep up those relationships as well, so that you have kind of the life you had before. So obviously it's a big change in your life, but you still want to maintain those friends you've had in the past as well. The other things I would say, obviously before that, I then said about money. Just my advice, just to financially, for going forward, you've just moved in, and maybe you're together a year before that, so this is your first year together. You've been a year together before, but that was living apart, and this is your first year living together. Financially, I would just advise to keep, you know, your account, as I said before, have your own account, and then moving forward, maybe down the line, a couple of years time, if things progress, then maybe talk about, you know, joint checking accounts and that, because it's just really important to keep your money yours, because you want to kind of have, not that you need a backup plan or anything like that, but you want to have control of your finances as well, which is really important. And then obviously, just as I said before, friends and family are obviously going to still want to be in your life. They're going to want to find out how everything is going. Even, you know, if it means kind of, if you've lived, so if you're moving to his town, or if you're moving away from together, just even to invite for weekends and things like that, invite your friends over. For me, it's a little bit different because I'm from Ireland and I live in the UK. So my friends, obviously, that I've known from school, I do travel home and see, and from college, and then obviously my family are split between the US and in Ireland, so I do go back and forth and see them as well. But I do have existing friends that I've made in the UK, and I do make a conscious effort to see those as well, because it's really, really important just to fulfill that other side of you, that you do need to have your girlfriends and you do need to have that time to yourself as well. And anything else I can think of that I'm trying to tell you about, because obviously moving in together is an exciting, and I don't want to just come down and say, oh, this is what you should do, and it is a very exciting time, and it is, it should be celebrated, you should look forward to it. It's just that you're aware of what can happen when you do move in together, and the differences suddenly become very noticeable and obvious, because you've obviously, for example, if you have been, like I said, only seeing each other 3 or 4 times, and sometimes depending on each other's schedules, you may even see each other maybe once or twice a week. Sometimes you might not see each other for 2 weeks. So that in itself is a big change when you move in together all of a sudden. If you do have any questions, do message me below. I have kind of said all the things that I would find, kind of do when I did move in at first with my partner. But in general, once those things are kind of cemented out at the start, you do feel a lot better physically. And once you see your friends, you have your money sorted in terms of things like that, like I've spoke about before, kind of the routine of the house, that kind of thing, who does what, that's all sorted. Once all of that is in place, you kind of have a clearer mind, and you can kind of enjoy what you were meant to enjoy in terms of why you moved in together, because you're stepping forward in this next stage in your relationship, which is so exciting. So that is a really, really good part of it. But it's also good just to kind of, as I said before, have those other parts of your kind of life managed, and that you are continuing to manage it as well, because it's important not only for you and your partner to be happy, but that for you as a person, and that you're happy in yourself as well, which is really important before you kind of make somebody else happy, is that you're happy with everything and how everything is going. And the main thing I'll say just before leaving on this is that I wouldn't advise to move in because you are in a financial situation where it would be easier financially to move in with that person. If that was me, what I would do is I would turn to family or friends, I would turn to work, kind of things like that, because what a lot of companies will do is they will say, okay, so you're struggling, we can give you like a forward pay, and then we can work out or something like that. We can work out with you going forward in terms of how you repay that to us. So it all just depends on your your situation. So when we're just talking about what I was requested to talk about, which was just moving in and the things that you should and shouldn't do, that's what I would do. And then once all that is sorted, as I said before, just be really happy, live in the moment. You've just moved in with your partner, be really, really happy. I just wanted to mention what I mentioned about money and finances, is just that there are some people out there, and it's through no fault of their own, this is the easier option for them, and obviously then financially they're in a better situation, but then the relationship, obviously you weren't moving in for the relationship, you're moving in for something else, so that kind of dwindles as well. So just to be aware of those pitfalls as well. But do message me if you have any interesting kind of stories and things like that about when you moved in with your partner, or if you want to message me and private message me, I will return your messages. And thank you for requesting this video, and I'll see you in the next video.